over? What is the thing that just you weren't completely prepared for it?
I think if I look back to when I know that it was over, I was actually on the football field. I was on the football field and I was with the Chargers. We were in LA at that point. Um I got hurt, man. I got hurt. We were running 4-minute offense against the Redskins. They're the Commanders now, but they were the Redskins then. Um I ran 4-minute offense. I got a few yards. I got tackled and I'm on the ground. I'm like, all right, the play is over. I'm tackled. But we're running 4-minute offense. So we were trashing them. And one of their D linemen just came and just jumped on top of me as I was trying to get up off the floor. And just the position I was in with my wrist, man, my wrist just it exploded. And I got a high pain tolerance. So when something is out of the ordinary, I know that like, wow, this is not ordinary pain. And I looked down at my wrist. It didn't look like my wrist anymore. So I'm like, oh man, this is a real injury right now. And at that point in my career, I was dragging because I was like personally, I was going through some things with my first son's mom. We were going through a divorce. And I call her my first son's mom because that divorce was intense, man. And so it was so many things hitting me at the moment where I'm like, wow, I'm really injured. I'm trying to pull myself up on this new team. And now I got to go through this situation where I just felt that I did not have the energy to recoup, to get back on the field, to go through this slog that I was going through at the time. So I'm like, yeah, I guess this is a sign from God that it's time to put it down. And when I actually did, I just don't think that I was really prepared for the finality of it, like the door closes and it closes. And you could try to open it up again, and I did, but when you're on the other side of it, life in the NFL is moving on. There ain't nobody calling you, Dre, have you been studying your playbook? Like you're in civilian world now. So it's a very quick, hard flip. And if you haven't been preparing yourself to live on that side, it could be cold, could be lonely, but I was already really I didn't make the decision lightly. I knew that I had to go and figure things out on that side. So I walked into it.
Transition brutal, and most people don't know how hard it is, and I think a lot of people kind of make fun of us because of it, because it was such a big part of our life. But you know, that identity that football gave you, what what part of that did it give you, and what part of it, once you were done, what part of it did it take away from you? Now? How hard was that transition out of it? So your football identity, it's over. What part of that did it take away?
I think the part that football identity gave me, it kind of solidified I just have a tendency to move off of conviction. I make a decision quick and I don't look back. And it's the same thing as soon as you get that football, you have to make a quick decision. You have to read the ass and see which way it's pointing. And you're just you got to make a decision to go. Cause if you hesitate, then it could be over, you know? And so I find myself making decisions like that a lot in life. And, sometimes you get hit for no gain on the play. And sometimes you hit it big, but that's what's comfortable for me. That's what's comfortable for me. And when football was over, the part of my personality that got taken away, I don't necessarily know that it was taken away. I had to go through this mental thing where it's like, all right, I'm not a player, but I am an athlete and I'm always going to be an athlete, and you can have to make that decision about yourself because it means everything. That's the reason why I tell myself, like, 3 weeks from now, if I gave myself 3 good weeks, I would be in game shape. Of course, like, and I take pride in that, so I say, I'm a retired player, but I'm a current athlete. But it was something that I had to make a decision myself that I did not want to lose that out of myself because that's something I want to give to my kids. I want to give them the best pieces of myself that it's not just myself, that's what they are too.
What was that transition then from funneling all that, being an athlete, competitive, scoreboard, consistency, discipline? How did that transition over to being an entrepreneur for you? And did you feel like entrepreneurship gave kind of took that competitiveness that's in your DNA, and did you apply that to entrepreneurship?
Percent. I think that sports is amazing for a lot of reasons. It's an incredible platform for the athlete. It's like politics, honestly. You see the people that are holding positions in politics and you hold them to a certain standard. It's the same thing for the professional athlete. You become a mentor and a role model to a lot of people that are looking up to you. But the difference between college sports and professional sports is where I realized that, wow, sports is a business. There's money on the table. It's not just about the camaraderie and the teamwork and, you know, pride and where you come from. It is a business. And once business is concluded for the day, all of the players go home to their families, the coaches go back to whatever they're doing, and it's done, and then we come back the next day to handle business. So that was a little bit eye opening for me in the beginning, but then I realized how cool it was because after my rookie season with the Giants, I was trying to figure out how to utilize my time properly. I didn't want to just say, all right, I had a great season playing football. I know I got to do my training and everything, but what about my free time? Am I going to sit here still playing PlayStation? No, I gotta figure something out. I was in Whole Foods grocery shopping and seeing a pile of soap on the table. It was like those artisan soaps. I'm like, how good do I got to get at soap making and start, getting product into Whole Foods? So I actually turned my townhouse into it was like a little soap lab. It was like a little, whatever you call it, it's like a smell goods factory. I don't know what you want to call it, but I was making soap. I was making candles, just experimenting with different scents and things. And that was fun to me. And it led me down a rabbit hole. It led me down a rabbit hole. I had a marketing agent that came and seen what I was doing. He said, I got somebody I want you to meet. Ended up meeting this guy named Eamon in his WeWork office, and he is like, Dre, you're a running back in the NFL. How would you like to create a signature shoe? I got this factory out in Spain. They're cranking out the Balenciagas. I got this designer who, um, he used to work for Nike. He's helping me put together my brand. Maybe I could extend my creative faculties so you could create a brand for yourself. We could run together and figure it out. I said, that'd be cool. I'm down, So I started putting my time and energy into that. And that was, it was a lot of fun. This is just the product that I created right here. So my first creative project was the Running Man, you know. After I did
Awesome.
that, I'm like, I started going to trade shows and things and not really understanding why I was there, what I was doing, but I was meeting people and I met this guy and he's like, so why did you make the shoe? He's like, well, because it was cool. And he's like, it's cool. How are you going to sell it? He started getting into the business and we ended up having this 3-hour conversation where he kind of just blew my mind because it took me about 8 months to make that shoe and a lot of money, but he gave me so much more information in that 3-hour conversation than it took to actually create that shoe. So I knew that I had met somebody different and couldn't sleep that night and was just thinking because the market didn't need another shoe. It needed something. It didn't need another shoe. And I'm thinking, what does the market really need? And then I'm like, you know what? I I can't wear jeans because I keep ripping my pants with these running back thighs. And when I brought the idea up to him of athletic fit denim, he was like, that's a niche that you could really grow out of. You can own it. You could grow out of it because nobody in the premium market is really doing that. But don't just make any jeans. Get the best possible fabric so you could compete with the best people in the market. And when he said it to me like that, that was everything for me where it's like, you're an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur because sports is a business and business is a sport. It's the competition. So for me, it's like competition is really drives everything. Everything that really means something, that has people striving for something better, to create something better, to do better than the next person. Doesn't have to be in a bad way. That's what I'm getting at, why sports has to be the idea behind it. Because yes, one team is better than another team. We're gonna see Super Bowl next week. I know who's gonna win, but I'm not gonna tell nobody. But somebody's gonna win and somebody's gonna lose. We know that for a fact. And yet, at the end of the game, those two people, those two teams, they're going to shake hands and they're going to say, I respect you. And they're going to go back to where they came from, you know? And that is how I like to think of business as well. It's not me go and step on somebody's head to make something happen. I see you, I respect you, and you're motivating me to do a little bit better with my product. So
I guess along the same lines, um, and I know that the perception of being a professional athlete and the reality of it, there is some blurred lines there, and anxiety and stress, and nothing's ever guaranteed. And I think there's just a lot of assumptions. People think of, you know, this glamorous lifestyle that you lead as a professional athlete is certainly not the case. There's moments, there's 10%, 20% of the day that there are those moments. But what is that moment from your career that looks really glamorous, but on paper it's but it's actually really miserable at times? Like, what were those moments for you that the outside world must say, Dre, you got to make, Heisman runner up, All American, Giants, NFL player, drafted, and you're sitting there at that moment in your locker saying, what the hell am I doing? Like, do you have that moment in your mind of what that transition was like?
100%. Honestly, that was really the scariest time of the whole ordeal, was actually making it there. Because I'll put it like this, right? I came in to the league as one of the hottest players out of college because I had went to the Heisman. I was the best running back in college football, but gaining that title, it took a lot of blood, a lot of pain. And so when I had to bow out of the Reese's Senior Bowl because my body was so beat up. And so I'm like, yo, I did enough to make it, but man, do I have enough time to recover before this next season? Like carrying the ball 40 plus times, multiple, games in the season, that added up. And then there was the moments where I remember actually where I took the punishment. There is Trey Boston used to play for, he played out of UNC, I believe. And I'll never forget, we were running wild on him, and he just took a real good angle and just he turned me over, man, right on my shoulder. And that was like the first third of that 2,000-yard season. So it happened early. It was like an AC joint sprain, and it happened at that moment. And I had to carry that through the season. I had to carry that through the season. It got worse and it got worse and worse and worse. It's not going to get better when I run the way that I do, you know? And so, um, it looked very good. It looked very, very good on paper, me coming into the league. But in my mind, I was scared. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to really be the same. I didn't know if I had enough time to recover. It's just questions, questions. And then, not to mention, I'm coming into the league with Odell Beckham Jr. and Eli Manning, and I had 2,100 rush yards, but guess how many receiving yards I had? I had zero. So it was also now, not only do you have to recover and be the Andre that got you there, you also have to become more well-rounded as a player so that you can fit into this system. So it's yeah, it looks good on the outside, but there's a lot of growing up that you have to do. And there's a lot of questions that you're going to have to answer for yourself, and there's a lot of responsibility that you're going to have to take to prepare yourself for what's coming.
When people stop you, when they recognize you, which I'm sure happens quite often, when they recognize you as the player, and you get to that point in your life where you've done so much more since then, and you hope that people really would recognize you as who instead. Who do you really want them to see when they see you?
Honestly, I'm not really the only recognition that really matters to me is, am I a good person? Do people recognize me as the salt of the earth? Do they see Jesus Christ in me? You know what I'm saying? That's all I really care about. At the end of the day, we're here on earth, and we're not in heaven yet. So at my time here, it has to be about my family, and come to see everything as sales. So when people recognize me for the football, or they ask me about the denim company, or they see my latest post about fitness, it don't really matter what the entry point is. It's always a game for me. It's like, all right, is this really a sale, or is this somebody just asking for a signature? What is it really? And it's all good no matter what it is. But I just kind of categorize it as like, can I help them in the way that I want to help them. It helps me to stay humble in a way, I guess, to where I'm always really looking to help somebody, but I'm looking to make a sale too. But that is the help.
Yeah, it's a network. Who believes in you before you really believe in yourself? And talk about your parents a little bit and kind of their journey and how did that form who you are today?
I think that I was blessed with a lot of things from my parents. My mom, she always kept me humble. The biggest lesson that I got from my mom, she said, Dre, just pray and eat, you know, just pray and eat. And so
Yeah,
my parents are Jamaican, man, so they gave me a lot of some of that island wisdom, and I really take that to heart. Just pray and eat, and it's not just necessarily about the food. There's just moments where you really just have to accept what you have and be thankful for it, because it could be worse. Could be worse. Bob Marley said, every man thinks his burden is the heaviest, and that is 100% true. But I know that I'm specifically built to handle my burdens, and I can't handle somebody else's. So I pray and eat. And then my dad, when I was first started dressing myself to go to school, he he looked at me and he's like, Dre, I got dressed and I'm like, Dad, I'm ready for school. And I got dressed and I'm ready to go. And he's like, Dre, you got a belt on? And I looked down, I'm like, nah, I don't got no belt on, Dad. And he's like, you don't got a belt on. You might as well not be wearing no pants at all. That's I don't know why that stuck with me so hard, but really it was a real lesson because I missed all of the trends. I wasn't thinking about being trendy because I was always thinking about, yo, do I got my belt on? I'm not trying to sag my pants. I want to make my dad proud. And my dad is an entrepreneur. He's an HVAC contractor. Well, he says he's not an HVAC contractor, but that's what I always known him as. He has a business where, you know, commercial heating and cooling, things like that. He does electrician work, all of that type of stuff. That's what he does. And you know, but he's a hardworking man, so he instilled that work ethic in me, and that, go and work for yourself type of mindset. I get that from my dad. And they never really pushed me into sports as a kid, but they made sure that I had a bike and I could go wherever I wanted. And I wish that I had that ability with my son. I take him to the skate rink every Saturday, and I think we're gonna start doing Wednesdays and Saturdays because I was everywhere in Jersey on that bike. when the fair was in town, and it wasn't in our town, it was 2 towns over. I was riding my bike 2 towns over to go to the fair. My parents didn't know where I was, but I was home before dark, so that was thousands and thousands of miles that I put on these legs with that bike. And so that was an indirect influence to where I got to in life. So, I thank them for that. And what else? Just there was when I was 2, I got
Did you ever tell them, and I had a hard time with this with my dad. He grew up at a different time. He didn't have a father growing up, and his mom was a waitress and a bartender, and he, he didn't know how to say I love you or I'm proud of you. He didn't know how to say that to me until I became older. And then I realized later on what a great dad he really was. And I remember telling him and I was in my 50s when I said this to him. You did a great job, Dad, and I love you. And that was the first time. And it took me that long. Have you ever had those moments with your parents? Just to thank them and say, hey, I realize it now as a dad and as an adult, how much you guys have impacted my life.
Yes. I don't know if there was a specific moment where I had that with my dad, but I definitely understand that 100%. Like, I don't think that my dad has been very expressive verbally of the love that he has for me and all of his kids. But I don't hold it against him, because he grew up in a totally different time than I did. He's, one of those dads that'll tell you he walked 5 miles barefoot to school and this, that, and
Yeah,
the third, and you guys had it so good, and I
he would tell me, yeah, your grandmother would drop me off because she didn't have babysitters back then. So she'd drop him off in the woods in the summer, drop him off with a 22 rifle, beer, and like canned food, and that was it, and bullets, and say, "I'll see you in August." He was like, that was his summertime. He was like, "It was the greatest summers of my life,"
wow.
and it's like you raised yourself. So
What I was saying, when I was 2, I got hit by a car. I was, in Plainfield, New Jersey, and I was shopping with my mom and my older brother. And I guess I was always just on this running thing. I want to run around somewhere, and I guess I was pulling away from my brother, and I run and go hide behind something. And one time I pulled away, I ran into the street and got hit by a car. And the car tried to speed off or something. They ended up getting him, but I had like flew into the air and rolled under another car. Some dramatic story. They said somebody had to come and lift up the car, pull me from under the car. But my first memory in life is actually seeing a helicopter land in this high school playing field across the street, and I'm like strapped down to a stretcher, and I see the helicopter land, and then I remember getting rolled into the hospital in one of those like caged stretchers, and then like waking up in the middle of the night with all the people around me, and then in the morning they had Chip and Dale, those little two little chipmunks cartoon on the TV, and I was eating some pudding. They told my mom like, "Yo, he's got this traumatic head injury. He might not be the same when he wakes up." But I ended up being fine, and I was running around the hospital the next day, and they ended up releasing me. But she was so traumatized by the incident that she wouldn't let me play football for a long time. And if I didn't have brothers that was, playing sports, then it would have been a hard sell
no
for
way.
me to get into sports. But I just
Yeah,
kept digging at her until she finally until she finally let me do it. She gave in. Mhm.
hey, talk about your book. Talk about the book. Where are you with it?
The book is published. I published it last year. So I had a friend. Let me see what I had in the drawer. I had a
Pull it out.
friend.
You got it.
I do have it. I'm not sure if I have it. I have another book though. This is the book that led to the book. So I have a friend named Eric Bartas, and he's actually a customer of mine. He came and bought a pair of jeans when I was over at my first location, and he was asking if I could, give him a quote for his book. This is one of those self-help books. It's called Bar 40, and it's just how to achieve personal excellence. And I said, sure. So I went and I got a copy of the book and I gave it a read and I gave him a quote. He called me and he's like, Dre, this is the best quote that I've ever gotten on my book ever. Like I gotta put it some because he got like a page where he puts the quotes of people that read the book. He said, I'm gonna put it somewhere where everybody can see it. And so he ended up putting it on the cover of the book. He put it on the cover of the book because he comes out with a new edition of it every year. So he put it on I guess that was the 2024 edition. And that kind of just it struck me. I'm like, man, I was always saying that I'm gonna go write a book. I'm gonna write a book. I was saying it from college, and I never got around to it, of course, because I'm playing ball. And but when he said that, then it made me feel like I'm shuffling my feet. I'm half stepping because I said I'm gonna write it. I haven't written it yet, and I gave a guy a quote, and he loved it so much that he put it on the front cover of his book. So what would happen if I was to write a book? And so I said let me not take this book for granted and the lessons that it's given me. And I want to have the best year of my life. And to signify that, I'm going to finish my book in a year. And so I started writing it in 20, I guess that was 2024. And I got it done in December. And I used a publishing coach to go ahead and do the editing and actually get it published. So that took another 8 months, and I think it was sometime in 2025 when I actually published it. I could be wrong. Maybe it was 2024. Whatever. I finished the book, and so that thing it's out now. It's called After the Last Snap: When the Game Ends, Life Begins, and it is a memoir on my life. So it's like the first 30 years of my life, and I think that I went through a lot of things, that's a lot of people don't get to experience in such a short amount of time. As far as you know, it could be anything. It could be, family strife, professional sports, that journey, married life, divorce, all types of things that I put in that book. Honestly, I put things in that book that I couldn't even tell you right here on this podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like I went very, very deep, very raw in the book. And I'm comfortable talking about anything. Um, those are if you read the book, you're closer to me than my best friend. You know more about me than my bestest of friends. Only person probably you're not as close as the two is my wife. She knows everything, but it was the most therapeutic thing that I could ever have done ever in my life was actually writing that book. I needed to settle things. I needed closure in certain things in sports, in my personal life. And the book helped me slow down because sometimes you end up in a place you don't really know how you got there. Just you're there and you're confused and you're wondering, how did this happen? And if you don't ever take the time to stop and think about it and trace back your steps, well, you're never really gonna figure it out. And that's really important. That's really important. So I really needed that. I really needed it. And I'm glad that I did. It was the best year of my life.
I wrote a book as well. It's called How to Land a Dream Job If Dad Doesn't Own the Team. It's about working in
Say it
sports.
again.
How to land a dream job if dad doesn't own the team. Like, how do you get into sports if you
Yeah.
have no connections? Right. But and the reason why I say that to you um, is because my next question to you is about vulnerability. And part of uh, writing that book was admitting and sharing that I have dyslexia. And I never told anybody before. My parents and my wife didn't even know. My kids didn't know because I was so embarrassed by it. And the outpour, and you said something about therapeutic, and it was so therapeutic, Dre, to let the world know that I have it. A lot of people are like, "Oh, now I get it," But I suffered. It was dyslexia, but I didn't realize it until I got to college. And, part of the reason why I went to the school I went to is because academically I couldn't get into anywhere else. The- Taking a class in the summertime to get admitted in, I had to take one class as a math class. I never knew it's numeric dyslexia, so I see the numbers backwards. And that was always the thing that shut down in my brain. I just thought I was dumb. And she showed me what it was, how to help you, how to help myself and slow your brain down. But also the good part of dyslexia is creativity and entrepreneurship and lack of fear of risks, which is good and bad. And but the good part of dyslexia, it opened up a different part of your creativity and it magnifies it. What was the thing that was most vulnerable to you in your book that you had to share with the world that you were scared to? You knew you were going to be judged, good or bad. What was that part that you were like, oh, when you're writing and reading it, it hurt? Did you have that part in your book?
100%. I did.
Yeah.
I did. So I think it's chapter 52. It's chapter 50 something. It's called Digital Demons and the Angel of Death. It's called Digital Demons and the Angel of Death. So this was back in 2021, the Christmas of 2021. So we're about 5 years out now. I I saw the angel of death. I saw one of them in a fever dream. I was very sick. And if you remember, this is around the time of Omicron, the most virulent strain of coronavirus there is. And I was in the store. I was in the store. I I got into smoking weed in high school, and that kind of developed into a coping mechanism for me when I was going through my divorce situation, and it got kind of sloppy, you know. And got into the store, I couldn't necessarily keep up the habit the same way, you know. So I got one of those little, you can go to the gas station and get one of those little vape pen things. And this was like some kind of strawberry flavored something, something. And it was just, something I was doing. It was signifying how sloppy I had become with that habit. But at the time I wasn't thinking about that, you know. And I started developing this cough. And this was about 2 weeks before Christmas, and started developing a cough. Didn't think nothing of it, but the cough got a little bit worse. And then I started coughing up this bloody phlegm. And I was like, ooh, that's not good. That's not good. And so that sickness kept developing to the point where this was like a week now before Christmas. And I was feeling really bad this particular day. Just feeling terrible, just feeling really, really sick. And it got to the point where I'm like, all right, I know that this is Christmas week, but we're gonna have to miss because I need to go home and lay down. I don't feel good. And that it was crazy because that was like a $10,000 month before that week. So I missed a lot. But I gained even more from this particular experience. And so I went home and I got into bed. My wife and my two kids, I had both my sons with me, and we're there. Just, they don't really know how sick I really am, but I stopped being able to eat. I couldn't eat any food, and I was getting these rolling fevers. I wasn't necessarily there wasn't anything else going on besides the bloody phlegm. Chest was hurting. I knew I had some kind of nasty chest infection, but I had this rolling fever that would come and go. And every time the fever would come, it just like it knocked me down like a wave, you know? And so this went on for about 8 to 9 days, and I'm getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And I just started thinking these morbid thoughts, like, yo, what wouldn't it be crazy if I actually died from this sickness? And how would the COVID camp rejoice to say, oh my gosh, look how dangerous coronavirus is. It killed this athlete in the prime of his life. And so I'm just like, man, I don't know what's going on, God, but I realize that I am mortal right now. Cause, like today, just like any other day, if I'm walking around in the airport or somewhere and somebody starts acting crazy, Rob, you don't even got to worry about it because I'm going to go kick this person's head off, especially if I'm with my family. I'm going to go handle the problem because I know today's not my day. But during this particular time, I felt like I was going to die. I really did. It wouldn't stop. And I wasn't eating. Couldn't eat anything. And so around day 9, and then as this thought occurred to me, I'm like, yo, if I die, where am I gonna go? I might be in danger right now. And I remembered something. I uh had an app called Reddit. I don't know if you know about that Reddit app, but the Reddit app is kind of like the Twitter app because Twitter or X is really triple X because there is some explicit content that you can go find on these apps. The difference is with Reddit, they give you a little secret folder to go hide whatever kind of smut you want to put in this folder. And so when I figured that out, I started putting things in the folder. Uh and I knew, I knew better. Of course I knew better, but just like that habit that I had with the marijuana is the same thing. It's like it seems small in the moment, but it builds up and builds up and builds up until you really you got this idol that you're worshiping. And this was a digital demon. That's what it was, and that's what had me sick like that. I truly believe it. I know it did because this would happen. So I remembered that I had this crazy stuff on my phone, and I went and I deleted it. And I went in the bathroom and I got on my knees and I prayed to God and I said, God, I know I haven't been doing right, but please help me. Please help me and help me to just get over this sickness. And you'll never find me in this position again. You will never find me in this position again, you know? And so now we get to day 10 and I'm still sick as a dog. And it comes to about 7 p.m. and I feel the fever coming again. I'm like, oh my gosh, let me just go try to just sleep it off. So I'm getting cold. I go put a hoodie on. I go get ready to climb into the bed. The bed is there, and there was like a light over the bed. You had this fan light, the yellow light, but I could see a depression on the center of the bed, like something was sitting on the bed. It's nothing there, but I could see a depression on the bed. But that was the only bed. So I climbed into the bed and went to sleep. And as soon as I fall asleep, I'm in this black room, this dark room, and it's pitch black. And I'm just traveling down towards the bottom of the room. And at the bottom of the room, there is some light there. And as I get closer to the light, I realize that it's not really a light, it's just a man there's like light coming off of him, but he's in all black. And as I get closer and closer to him, I realize that this man is giant, like he's towering over me. And then I'm right in front of him and he lifts up his hand and he's got a sickle in his hand. And he lifts up his hand and he swings it and it's like whoosh. And it hits my neck, but it hit my neck and it shattered against my neck, shattered to pieces. And then he spoke to me and he said, it's better for you to die than for you to corrupt your family by showing them your lack of self-discipline.
Oof.
And then the second thing he said was, your relationship with your wife is your relationship with God. That's marriage. Stop treating them as if they're two separate things. And the third thing he said was, if it's not the flower, then it's cracked. And then he kind of just like backed up into the darkness and disappeared. And I woke up. And I know that it was more than a dream because it's burned into my mind for one. But when I woke up, I was truly, truly right next to death because I sat up and my wife was, she was probably like maybe like 4 feet from me and she was trying to talk to me and I couldn't hear her. She was sounding like, dude, she was talking over like I couldn't understand what she was saying, and she was right there, like 4 feet from me, and I couldn't see her. Everything was blurry. Everything was super blurry. So I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, just like, just trying to steady myself because I'm like, yo, if I pass out right now, I know I'm going to the hospital. I'm gone. They ain't know the jig is up. They gonna see how sick I really am. And then I heard my spirit say, take your hoodie off. So I pulled the hoodie off. And as I pulled the hoodie off, I just start sweating profusely, just sweating, dripping water. I'm sitting in a puddle. And then when that kind of stopped, then I felt better. My hearing came back, my sight came back, and I started feeling better. And that was it. I started recovering from there. The next day I was able to eat a little bit of food and I recovered, man. But it was the realest moment